All right, new background. Just going to go with this for today. Still messing with the new broadcasting software and trying to get to a visual that I like, and I don't feel like I'm there yet, but I got some beef in the oven. I got a little short turnaround here, so let's jump into it. Gig week review number 9, I believe. If I'm wrong, the number will be there in the title. And this week I had a birthday party for 80th birthday party on Monday in Pawleys Island. I had Friday night at the city market, and then I had Saturday night at the pickle bar. And I was planning on using the Space Arc that you see right here at the city market and the pickle bar and live streaming. Didn't end up doing that due to rain. There was a pretty strong threat of rain for both of those days, and it did rain quite a bit on both those days, but cleared up just enough before the gigs so that I could go do solo acoustic setups and have a little bit of a simpler setup that's less risky. And so... but the first gig on the Monday for the 80th birthday party was primarily, I would say, people around 40 years old or late 30s and their young kids, maybe even 40 to 50, something like that. And then it was maybe a group of about 25 people. So kind of a small group. The space itself was small. And the request going into it was that I play golden oldies. And they had picked out a lot of songs from my list, but stressed the idea of any golden oldies would be what I should play. I had actually spent some time playing with a group called the Funhouse Porcupines, and we did a lot of busking on the corner in Seal Beach, where we played a lot of what I think would classify as golden oldies. And so I dug into those songs that I was familiar with, and some songs as I've learned in over the years since then, even as I was playing bars and restaurants that maybe want more of the pop top 40 covers. I've wanted to learn everything. I've wanted to learn songs from every genre. Variety was king in my learning ambitions. I tried to have something, so I'd have something for everyone, and just to stretch myself and get myself outside of my zones, and also just to learn more about song structure, because what I've found is that almost any song that you learn, you might hear a song in a certain context, if it's a heavy metal song or a rap song, or I don't know, if you could think of a context that you would think that would not work well as a acoustic song. But actually, if you just spend some time familiarizing yourself with it, most chord structures are pretty simple, and most lyrics can be applied to a acoustic setting. You just have to figure it out, and it's usually not that hard. And so that's what I've found, is that most songs you encounter can be sort of mapped over very easily to a solo acoustic format. And so I tried to learn. That was part of a process for myself, is to learn, anything that I thought couldn't, off the top of my head would think that can't be an acoustic song, and then I just try it and see, can I make this an acoustic song? An example maybe would be Take On Me. At least for a period of time, I thought that would be one that, it's so electronic driven, and the melody, the hooks, how could that be an acoustic song? And then I started doing it, and it works. Maybe it's better as the full mix that they've put time into developing, but you can get the point across, you can get the gist of it across, and do a fine rendition as a solo acoustic version. and sometimes it catches people by surprise because they don't expect to hear that. Same for Africa from Toto. But there's, I don't know, I could go more into that, but there's tons of songs that I've learned over the years where you would think that wouldn't be an acoustic song. And then I would say that as an encouragement to anybody out there. If there are any songs you just like, but you think they're in a genre that just is not easily mapped to, or it doesn't translate well to acoustic, just give it a try. You might be surprised. So I think maybe the biggest takeaway from that particular event was there's a lot that I could say about it, but it was fun. I had a good time. I feel like the group was not so difficult or challenging. They were a pretty easy group to work with, and it was fun to work with the kids. But the biggest takeaway for me was there was one song in particular that connected to me better than any of the others, and it surprised me because this particular song is one I've personally really liked learning and kind of growing into performing it, but it never connected as well as I thought it would. And that's one of the interesting things in performing, is that from one night to the next, you don't necessarily know which song is going to be the biggest one or the one that really connects the best. And, and I think it's a mix of many different parameters or things that are going on. To some extent, it's your own connection to the song. To some extent, it's just the timing of when it appears in the set and the mood of the audience. Maybe even you could throw the mix and how the mix overall in that space complements different songs. But you could probably dissect it a lot more than even those. There's many different parameters that I'm sure go into it, but some much more important than others. The song was "Do You Believe in Magic" from the Lovin' Spoonful. Really like the song. It's just a fun, feel-good song. And for that reason, I thought it's also one that would have a lot of crossover potential in terms of it's an older song, it's going to be recognized by older generations, but it's so upbeat and infectious and fun that and simple and unoffensive. It's like it's kind of the message is kind of undeniable, and so I thought there would be a lot of crossover with younger generations, that it would be easy for younger generations to get into that song even if they've never heard it before. And so, to my surprise, to some extent, that hasn't been the case when I've performed that song out live. But for whatever reason, on that particular night, for this 80th birthday party with these age groups and that dynamic, the moment I started playing that song, I could feel I'd found it. Like, that was the one. Now I was locked in. I was connected. It was working perfectly. It's hard for me to pinpoint exactly why that was, but it was just the right song at the right time, the right groove. And when you find that, I guess you just say thank you. you say, thank you, God of set list, and just enjoy the ride. And so maybe there's some stuff for you to take away there. For me, I was just really excited to see that song be successful, because it lets me know that the potential of that song was real, and it definitely deserves to keep a spot in the set. So we'll move from there to Friday night at the City Market. Not my best experience at the City Market. I don't know if I was just tired, whatever it was. Not in the best frame of mind that day to start things off with. It always kind of is annoying when the rain is just this looming threat. You don't know if you're going to be performing, or then your day just gets into this you know, uncertain limbo, and there's this threat of like you got to gauge the risk of the rain, and there's some challenges that are inherent in playing the city market because for the most part, if it rains, then they want you to go inside. But there's still the threat of moving, depending on how heavy the rain is, just moving your equipment from the car to inside. I mean, that's there. And then for me, and I just went ahead and made this clear to them in an email, and we'll see what that means. But I just said I'm not going to play inside because whenever you're playing on the inside, you're too close to the vendors, and it just there's this conflict of interest, and you need to have a certain volume level to actually connect with your audience and have the impact that you want to have. And when you're at that volume level, it creates a more of a difficulty for the vendors to talk to their customers, and so the vendors don't like it. For the customers, I don't think that they mind it. I actually think that overall they like it. But for the vendors, they don't like it because they're not there to listen to you. They're there to make money. And so it's just this built-in conflict of interest. If they don't mind listening to you, they like to have that there because if it's tasteful, if it's done right, it accents, it complements the experience for the customers. And the idea is live music, live entertainment makes vendors more money. Like that's at a restaurant will hire a musician because it helps people to enjoy themselves more, and maybe will spend more money. They get more drinks, they stay around longer. So that's part of why it can work from a financial standpoint. But in this particular context, it just doesn't work, in my opinion, for me, because I want to have an emotional impact. That's part of why I would do it, because overall the pay of the market is quite low. And so the principal purpose for me is the low expectations, so the freedom to do the music the way I like to do it, and have less pressure to have a certain efficiency of entertainment. Though I still kind of do a very similar thing that what I do to my private events, but I do have the ability to take a longer break if I need to, or just not have that pressure to just constantly deliver. If I get tired, I can pause and let things be silent for a little while, and it's not a big deal. But then I want to have the emotional impact and the spiritual impact. And so that's a huge part of why I do it, is because you get access to people walking around from that could be from anywhere. They're from the cities, they're from New York, or they're from wherever. They're from every walk of life comes through there. And so you have a unique opportunity to connect with people in this exploratory moment where they're checking out the market. A lot of tourists, but a lot of locals as well. I think, on any given night. And then the college party crowd starts to come out around 9 or so, 8:45. You have access to all these people and the opportunity to spread a spirit. And so for me, I need my volume to be up to a certain level in order to get that out there, and that's part of what makes it worth it to me. So I won't play inside when it rains, and so then that creates this, problem where, for them, they want to have a musician there, but then I got to worry about my equipment, and if it rains too heavy, I've had 2 times the rain came heavy onto my equipment when I was there, and so I just don't think I can take those chances again. So that was part of it, is that the threat of rain creates this limbo where you don't know what's going to happen and what decision you need to make, and you're sort of walking this line of value to you and value to the people that booked you and to the establishment, and that relationship, and honoring that relationship, and it's just difficult. And so there's this limbo and tension that's just there through the whole day. And then I get there to the event, and then I set up, and then I go to look for parking, and it literally takes me like an hour to find parking. So I end up starting almost an hour late. And And so then I played for like an hour and just wasn't feeling it. So I took an L on Friday, I would say, and then there's things that I don't know. At the end, I just chilled out. When 10 o'clock came, I was sat down taking a break, and I just sat there for a little bit, resting, and then started to get harassed by random people that started coming up, like asking me for money and weird interactions. So Friday was an L, I would say. And, also one of the biggest things I wanted to do on those two nights, Friday night and Saturday night, was to use the Space Arc. I've got the cellular data router with the new SIM card, and I really wanted to live stream it, and that was a big goal for me this weekend. And I've had the SIM card almost a month now and still haven't been able to utilize it and test this out. So, but that's okay. I'll still tweak it all. It gives me a little more time to make a few tweaks that I think overall are going to make things better. So, but hopefully for next weekend, I'll be able to do that. I want to look at my schedule real quick here, and I got to go get this beef out of the... I got the City Market on Saturday, Kiowa Pool on Friday. So Friday won't be a live stream, but hopefully Saturday will be at the City Market with the Space Arc. Although it's forecasted for rain again, it's just can't escape the rain. It's just been raining over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's I guess August tends to be rainy, but it is forecasted to rain again, so I probably won't be able to. But we'll see what happens. I do have a lot of different NATSA booked private events, which is pretty cool, coming up over the next few months, which is the direction I wanted to move. We'll say here's my biggest takeaway for Friday night, and then we'll jump into Saturday night tonight. This thing's already stretching out. But Friday night, one of my favorite things, because I felt like I wasn't connecting so well with the music. Why did the visual change and now I have spots on my head? Who knows? Maybe I could do like this. Friday night, when I took a break, I've downloaded some music for the first time in probably 10 years, like actually bought music. I haven't done that for a long time. I just don't download music. I just listen to it online, and for the most part, I already hear so much music, I just don't listen to more music. I hear tons of local artists. I'm working in music all the time. I just don't seek it out that much. But I've come across some artists more recently that I feel really connect with. Like I feel a lot of connection to their message, and there's in particular songs, and I'm excited because I think maybe some more music like this is coming out. I think it's timely, and so my favorite thing of Friday night was I just got to play DJ and share a couple of these songs in that environment just by pressing play, and still felt like I was having some of that impact that I like to have. That usually I would only feel, I've only ever felt that before when I'm performing and I'm singing my message. But I feel like other people are making messages that get what I, sort of my message, or what I fundamentally want to say. They get some of that across. So one of those songs was Red by Jesse Wells, and one of those songs was Heavy Foot by Monrovia. Freaking love Red, by the way. I think Red is a fantastic song. I don't necessarily agree with all of its sentiments, but I love the lyrics, and even the stuff I don't agree with, I still like it because it's the way he says it. There's still things that are part of the message where I don't have to agree with everything. It's the overall arching themes that are more important, and that I think he does a really good job getting across. Heavy Foot by Monrovia is kind of this much more peaceful, soft, but also with some political themes. But it's the way that it's delivered, the fact that it's gaining, or that they have some popularity, is pretty neat to see. And so I think I get to play a role in playing some songs that are a little less known acceptable in family-friendly environments and have that ability to do something a little more important and deep spiritually, that when people who might recognize these songs get to hear them played in a public environment, and confidently with volume, that I just think I get to play that role even just by being a DJ of encouraging and uplifting, people's spirits who, I'd like to do that for. So, all right, last one was the pickle bar. Again, it was scheduled to rain. I had planned to live stream this thing. I had a guy that played drums in our band, the Space Arc, until that split up. I worked with him a little bit last week to learn how to do some mixing, and he was going to help me out with coming in and doing some of the live mixing with a tablet, so I could just focus on performing. And unfortunately, we kind of had to pull the plug on that because of the rain. But it ended up being a really nice day, and when I got there, tons of people were there. So I was pretty surprised. I figured the rain would scare a lot of people away. It was packed. And so I did a solo acoustic performance there. Weird things, like, I don't know, I figured it out what it was, but there was, like, that was one of the things that was aggravating me yesterday, on Friday as well, was just, I've been doing solo acoustic stuff for so long, and I feel like my setup was giving me a really hard time, and I was getting this feedback, and so I couldn't get my volume level to where I wanted it to be. And so it just felt like on Friday, so much of how things unfolded that day was just defeating me. Everything was working to defeat what I aspired to try to do. And it was just over and over again, so many things that day. And so, and then on Saturday, I got my setup. I feel like my setup is wide, and so I'm able to push the volume really loud. I'm using my 6 different speakers, so I feel really good. It's a big space, so I got to push it out really loud, even just to try to reach all the way to where people are. And when I go to take the first break, I go to mute the microphone, and it like screams like feedback. And I think what it was is, I've got these wireless microphone modules that you plug into a microphone and you plug it into your mixing board. And there's a mic setting and a line setting. And I had it on the mic setting, but I think somehow the electronics had it set to line setting. So I had it cranked all the way up. And then all of a sudden, when I went to mute it, it just decided it was now in mic setting. And then before I muted it, it just briefly screamed. And then when I went to turn it back on, it screamed again. And so I had to figure out what is going on. So I just toggled the switch up and down. And since I've decided to now keep it on the line setting, because the line setting, I can get way more volume out of it. And I don't know why this is. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So if somebody understands this, let me know in the comments, because I'd be curious to know why this is. As far as I would know, if you have on the mic setting, all it means is that it's more, you got more decibels of volume that are built in through that, or that's sort of like a gate that maybe you put on if you do the line setting. But if I got the line setting on, I was able to turn the volume super loud, get my voice coming out really, really nice and big, and not have any feedback. And if I went to the mic setting, on my mixer, the volume setting for my mic would be way lower, but I couldn't get it to get anywhere close to the true volume that would be coming out when I had it on the line setting. So I don't know why that was, but glad to have figured that out. So I'll just keep it on line from now on, and I guess it helps me to be able to push out a lot more sound without feedback. So that's a good thing. But before I figured that out, it was causing, when I switched to do my original songs, which is one of my biggest things that I was excited about doing that day. After I took my break, I come out, play Into the Mystic. I figure I'm really strong at that. But the mic thing ended up just destroying it, because there was so much noise that was getting back in through the mic. And when I tried to play the bass accompaniments, it just ruined the song. Like, it sounded horrible, I think. And so I was trying to get people's attention by playing Into the Mystic. at a really high level where they were like, okay, there's some really good different stuff that's about to come. And then I was going to go right into my originals. And so I did go into my originals. I got to precede my originals with a horrible version of Into the Mystic. And then when I start doing my originals, I can't get the vocal volume to the level that it needs to be. And so I'm like screaming and like trying to sing so directly into the microphone. I still don't feel like I'm getting to where I need to, where people are going to hear any of the lyrics. And so it was like, seriously, I've been doing this long, and what's happening? Like, how is, like, it just felt like, the world was conspiring to destroy my efforts. And so, I did 3 or so original songs, and then after a little bit longer, picking up where I left off, got interrupted. I've edited it, so you probably can't tell, or maybe you can tell. I got my wife unknowingly interrupted me because she was concerned about the beef in the oven. And anyway, so I'm just getting back to this today. I'll try to wrap this up really quick. So, and I've changed the camera just to test it out and try to accomplish a better overall visual. And I think I'm going to need to order a different camera because I think that's the issue. I'm using a built-in camera here, and then I've got like a pretty cheap webcam kind of thing that is supposed to be HD, and I guess it is, but I think a better camera would overall achieve a better with the lighting and the visual situation that exists here. A better camera would make it easier for the computer to process and get a better image. Because right now I've got you could see it. I feel like it's not bad. It's not bad, but I'm like glowing a little bit or something. But all right, so as I was saying, I played 3 original songs, and it felt like the universe was conspiring against me to destroy my authentic efforts, that as long as I was playing covers, then the stuff worked. And then I go to play my originals, and I just get sabotaged. In the end, it all worked out. I was able to figure out that setting issue. Towards the end of my second set, I went back and I closed the last 35 minutes out with all originals. I played the 3 originals that I had already played, but I figured people probably wouldn't even be able to recognize them because the audio obscured the vocals the first time through. And I got some people coming up and giving tips during my original set, kind of because they were leaving. The place was getting towards closing time. And when they were deciding to leave after they'd been enjoying live music for the duration of them being there, they went to tip. And so I can't really say for sure as to whether they were tipping due to the originals or not. But at least I can say that the originals did not deter them from tipping. And overall, I could tell that they enjoyed them. So that's a plus. I think let's end it on this. Yesterday, I was planning to go to an open mic, which I don't do very often, but there's this new one at a good place that I thought it would be interesting to go try out some originals there. And perhaps the main reason I wanted to do it is so that I could see if how I'm performing right now with my original songs the way they are right now is strong enough to see the strength of connection that I can create with those songs with an audience right now, and just test it now. And I didn't end up going because it rained, and in particular I want to play outside at this venue where this open mic spot is. I think maybe that still could have happened, but I ran short on time, didn't end up doing it. And then also, I just thought in my head, why do I keep feeling like I need to go test these things? Like I've been doing this, over 10 years now. Like I just need to, if I want to start pushing my originals, if I want to start connecting to people with my originals, then I need to just start doing that in my sets. And this is or a subject or a topic that, I've been through a long road with it, and there was a time where I played way more originals, and my originals connected back then. So I don't know why I would think that now they wouldn't connect as much. I mean, other than I've just been, for the most part, doing the covers. I mean, the truth is, when you start playing for local gigs that are paying you, mostly people are genuinely looking for covers, and it's just the way it is. And when I started out performing for money, I performed a lot more originals, and I would, people wouldn't complain necessarily. And in fact, maybe people would enjoy some of the songs. But I think there's no doubt that overall, like when you look at overall the number of people that you positively get responses from, you get more if you play covers. And that's just because of familiarity. And it's just a harder task to try to get people to have strong positive reactions to original songs that they've never heard before. And it's a more challenging task. It's just way easier to do it with covers. Now, that doesn't mean that I shouldn't do it. And I think that's where I'm getting to at this point is, if I want to achieve building a real following, building people that come out because they get something deeper out of the experience that I'm providing, then I think I need to take on that challenge of performing the originals and whatever effort and sort of aptitude that it takes to deliver it in a way that entertains and deliver it in a way that engages and gets people to listen and gets them to pay enough attention where they can appreciate it. I think playing the covers is maybe the easy route, and what I've done for years now is I've not worried about applause, and I've basically become a solo acoustic DJ where I just play one song into the next, into the next, into the next, and I use a looper to make sure that the music never stops, unless I'm taking a break, and even then I don't let the music stop. I put on a loop and I fade in the background music and fade out my loop. And so the music never stops, pretty much at my gigs, I don't let the music ever stop. And so I don't worry about applause because I always felt like I'm creating this, when you do gig after gig after gig after gig where it's getting to like hundreds of gigs, it's like, I'm just there working, and it's another job. I'm going in there to get paid. I want to do the job. I want things to be smooth and easy, and I want to do a good job and get paid. And so then the applause interaction is a more difficult one because it just leaves a lot of opportunity for, well, in some sense, maybe I put some of the control into the audience's hand. If I never stop playing, there's not a curveball that can really be thrown at me other than somebody coming up to request or some kind of interaction that they want to have with me while I'm playing a song, which is pretty rare when you just play song after song after song. It doesn't happen that often. But I think to some extent where the good stuff is, I can have a great time doing it this way, and that's a way that I can get people engaged. Venues are usually really happy with me because I perform with energy and, I deliver like a maximal amount of value through never letting the music stop and one song after the other, and it's all songs that people that are recognizable and a big variety. And audience members are usually very happy about what happens too because it's entertaining and it never stops and it's mixed well, and so it works. It totally works, and it's a good way to have a positive review and a positive experience for everyone, including myself. And then we don't have to worry about this applause dance. Which, speaking of, I think the next video that I'm going to upload that's not one of these review videos, there's two of them. One's going to be about applause and different kinds of applause and how to interpret and understand it. I'm going to go through and find lots of different video and audio samples of applause and then go through them and talk about what each one means and what can be inferred or understood from these different kinds of applause. because applause is infinite in meaning, and I don't know that there's a real good rubric for understanding it. So I'm going to attempt to make mine, at least get it started. And then the other one I'm going to make is about the key of D harmonica, because that harmonica has been a fantastic one for me, and I'm going to go through and review, I think, about 4 or so different harmonicas that I've used, all in the key of D, and then the application that those harmonicas have, how useful they are, and all the different keys that you can play them in, and why I particularly like the key of D. But with applause, I think that's where I've got to take it again, is I need to go back into that territory of creating those gaps between songs and allowing for the audience to state what they have to state, whatever it is. I think part of the reason that I wanted to stop stop allowing for those moments is because I didn't like the feedback that I was getting. And it's not necessarily because of me. It's like the feedback doesn't necessarily have to do with me. The feedback it could be an indication of just the state of audiences. But I've found, and I know that other people have found this too. So I know it's not just about me, but it may be that applause starts to disappear the longer that you've done this. And it's and what I don't know is if that's really what it's associated with, or is more of a cultural phenomenon that's happening, where people just don't applaud anymore. It's more rare. And I find that when I first started, there was a lot more like strong kind of applause between songs. And it also could be a cultural difference between locations, because when I first started, I was in LA and in Long Beach, and when I have been gigging, this has been in Charleston, South Carolina. That could be part of it too. But I think it's more about, I think what it is expectation, the audience expectation when they look at you and they evaluate you, your setup, the venue, whatever it is. There's a certain expectation that's wrapped up in their personal evaluations. And I think when you're new and people can tell you that you're new, they're way more likely to support you. Just because people feel this, it's like a rule, it's like a built-in thing. And so that's a shout out to everybody that's, if you're new, like, don't be afraid, because people are going to go easy on you, and you're going to have some of your best crowd reactions will be when you're new. It's actually where it gets hard is when you're not new anymore and you actually start to get really good at it, and then people have different expectations and they start to question, why are you still doing this? Or they start to be more judgmental about and more withholding of their applause. I think that's a part of it, and then I think it's also overall a cultural thing that there's shifts in the venue, that people, unless they have paid good money to go see a show, they're way less likely to divvy out applause. You'll have some people that do it that have manners, and then a lot of other people that won't, and so you get these really kind of awkward applauses, and that's why I started trying to just get rid of them, because I felt like they were very unhelpful and they weren't fair. I felt like I did a really good job. I performed a song to an excellent level, and then and I performed an original that's really well written, that's beautiful in terms of its sentiment, and it just goes completely unappreciated, and it goes, in my opinion, disrespected. And then it doesn't help me, because it creates this very awkward relationship between me and the audience, where and the audience members that do appreciate, or the audience members that do show at least basic kind of manners, and the ones that don't, because when it's a high percentage, as I've said before in this channel and in many environments, people are largely herd animals, and they follow. For the most part, they are followers, and they follow what the trend is. They follow what the popular theme is. And so if the popular theme seems to be, a lot of people are not applauding this, then the few people that are going to tend to stop, or at least they're going to feel awkward, when they do it. And And so rather than deal with that, I chose to just bury that because I just found it easier. And maybe that's one of the bigger mistakes that I've made as a performer, is that that's the challenge that I have to take on if I really want to be an entertainer and I really want to get my music across to people and get people to hear it. Then I have to take on that challenge of having people that are resistant and that are maybe a little bit rude or a little bit ignorant, or whatever it is. I have to take on that challenge. And so I think that's one of the things that, rather than go, test my material out at an open mic again, I just need to start, demanding attention from the audience and living with the results. And if that means I don't get booked again at certain places because they feel like I'm not delivering, the right, top 40 pop show, and I'm placing a burden on my audiences of responsiveness and attentiveness that they don't want to give because they want to hang out with their friends, then maybe I just need to do that anyway and lose those gigs until I find the places that actually will listen, and find the environments where they're environments that I can actually work with in this way. And if there's none of them, then it's time to move to the Sardinia, and put this all behind me. Say, you know what? I put a good effort, and I want to go kite surfing because to me that sounds a lot better anyway. So there's my my gig week review breakdown. Hope you enjoyed it, and look forward to posting more videos in the near future. I've got a month here before I'm headed out of town. I'm going to try to get as much done as I can this month. So I should have a lot more videos coming out in the near future. And so I'll see you in the next ones.